Yo, what's up, y'all? I might be late to the game, but watch this.
Turn to that scary Uber incident. 16-year-old girl now in custody, accused of killing her driver after he picked her up at a Walmart. ABC's Mara Schiavocampo here with that story. Good morning, Mara.
George, good morning. This is a truly shocking crime. Prosecutors saying a 16-year-old girl, seemingly your typical high school student, brutally murdered a complete stranger. Officials don't have a motive for the killing, and they say the suspect is not talking. Well, now she's facing charges as an adult and is being held without bail. This morning, an Illinois teen facing murder charges for what officials are calling a brutal and unprovoked attack on an Uber driver. 16-year-old Eliza Wozni appearing in court after prosecutors say she attacked her Uber driver with a knife and machete early Tuesday for no apparent reason at all, fatally wounding 34-year-old driver Grant Nelson.
Only 2 minutes or so after picking up the defendant, she begins to hack at him and stab him from the back of the seats.
Prosecutors say Wozni called for an Uber pickup at this Walmart just outside of Chicago around 3:15 Tuesday morning after allegedly stealing a knife and machete. Surveillance video reportedly showing her leaving the store without paying for the items. After allegedly turning the weapons on her driver, he managed to escape, running to a nearby apartment building for help.
It was just, help me, God help me, please, I'm gonna die. At the top of his lungs.
Officials say Wozni tried to flee in Nelson's Hyundai Sonata, but the high school student crashed the car and ran off on foot before police say they found her hiding behind a nearby building, wearing only leggings and her bra, still holding the machete and knife. Police saying they had to tase her to drop the weapons. Nelson was rushed to the hospital, but hours later died from his injuries. Now, his family is remembering him as a gentle man and hoping for justice.
This is a time of heartbreak and tremendous loss for us.
In a statement, Uber says, "We are heartbroken by the loss of one of our partners, Grant Nelson. Our deepest sympathies and prayers are with his family and loved ones during this incredibly difficult time. This is such a baffling crime."
It's senseless, completely senseless. So no clues on a motive at all.
You know,
All right, so this is the first I'm hearing of this. I guess I don't watch a lot of other YouTube videos in terms of like news reports. So this video was posted 8 months ago, and there's several others about this particular story. Couple things about this story, and you know, there's more kids killing people type of thing. But I got a little backlash from the videos that I did on not picking up minors in the past. And I don't care. I don't care what people say. At the end of the day, Uber has a policy that unless your rider is 18 years old or older, that they're not to ride in your vehicle unaccompanied by an adult. And I just received something from Lyft the other day. I think Lyft's is 17 years old or older, or they have to be accompanied by an adult, right? So I was saying in my other video that I do not pick up minors unaccompanied by adults. And of course, you know, the reason why is not necessarily this news clip. The reason why is because there's a lot of things that could happen. Liability with children, with minors, with juveniles, etc., that's different than adults. So, a couple things. Don't pick up minors unaccompanied by adults. This particular Uber driver did. Maybe he thought the girl was 18 or older. Who knows? Sure, there's times when you look at somebody and you think they're older than they are, or you look at somebody and you might think they're younger than they are. So if you're in a situation where you think that you might need to ask, I would ask. The other thing is, you know, it's heartbreaking for the family that lost this guy. It's heartbreaking for him that he lost his life for no particular reason, or for, you know, no reason known to us. It's crazy. It's terrible. It's tragic. But looking at it, I look at things like that happen and say a couple things. Number one, you could say, terrible things can happen, so therefore I'm never going to be an Uber driver. But terrible things can happen whether you're an Uber driver or not. I have had passengers in the past, when I first started, ask me, aren't you scared to drive strangers around? Isn't it dangerous? And certainly I get frequently asked questions about driver safety, especially from female drivers. So a couple things about driver safety in this particular scenario. When you pull up to pick up your passenger, confirm their name, confirm their destination, and if you think that they might be underage, do not let them into your vehicle. Cancel the ride and select the option in the app for underage rider. The next thing is, if somebody's getting into your vehicle and you can see that they're carrying a weapon, a machete or a knife, then again, don't let them into your vehicle. I'm assuming that, the knives that this girl used were concealed, that they weren't in her hand at the time. But you never know. He might have thought, she's coming from Walmart, she just bought that item or whatever. And who knows? I don't know all the details. What I will say, in addition to that, is I have cameras in my vehicle. I have this camera facing me and my passengers, and I have this camera facing the road, recording the actual trip. I always recommend to drivers to have cameras. That's one safety precaution. I always recommend to drivers to verify the name and the destination of the rider. I also recommend that you be armed. Now, what does that mean? That means be armed with knowledge, be armed with skills, be armed with self-defense techniques, be armed with whatever you feel is necessary to protect yourself and defend yourself, because you are driving people that you don't know, people that you've never met in most cases, people that you may never meet again. And in the United States especially, we have lots of mentally ill and disturbed people who are willing to do harm to random strangers. You don't expect that. But I always tell people, because here in Texas, I'm in San Antonio, and here in Texas, I get a lot of passengers that get into my vehicle and they notice the cameras eventually. Whenever they do notice them, they ask me, how come I have cameras? And one of the reasons why they ask me is because most drivers in my state don't have cameras. And I tell them, well, I'm from New York City. And in New York, we don't trust anybody. Y'all Texans, y'all trust everybody. So it's the opposite. I would say if you're an Uber driver or you're a Lyft driver, it's better to not be afraid of your passengers, but also to not assume that they're not going to do anything stupid to you or your vehicle. I always say, prepare for the worst, expect the best. Like be prepared for the worst possible outcome and hope for the best. So that's my mindset when people get into my vehicle. If I'm driving and nobody's in my passenger seat in the front and nobody's in this seat, to be honest with you, I don't want them in this seat. If nobody's sitting here and nobody's sitting there or there, why should they be riding directly behind me? For me personally, I prefer that they don't, and so I'll even ask passengers if they can move for my comfort. I haven't had to do that too many times, but if you don't feel right, just let them know you'd like for them to move into your line of sight where you can see them so that you're comfortable. Passengers want to be comfortable. Well, drivers also should be comfortable and feel safe. The other thing is don't be afraid. Just because something like this happened, this is the only time I've heard of it happening. But just because something like this happened doesn't mean it's going to happen to you, doesn't mean it's going to happen in your city, doesn't mean it's going to happen to any drivers that you know. Just be aware that it can happen, but it can happen anywhere. Like, this girl could have ran up on one of the people working at Walmart and started stabbing them. The girl could have just walked outside and started stabbing some random customer, pushing their cart with groceries in it. She could have stabbed anybody. For whatever reason, she chose to stab her Uber driver, and unfortunately, she took his life. So, I always tell drivers this: safety is your first priority. Your safety, then your passenger's safety. So if you're ever in a situation where you feel uncomfortable, or you don't feel safe, or you feel like something's wrong, or there's red flags that are alarming you inside, making you feel like this might not turn out good, then I always advise drivers, stop the trip, stop whatever is happening, and, let the passenger out. Whether you took them all the way or you didn't, your safety is number one. If you feel uncomfortable or unsafe picking up in a certain area, don't pick up in that area. If you feel uncomfortable picking up at a certain time, don't pick up at that time. If you feel uncomfortable picking up passengers, period, and you don't feel safe, then you probably shouldn't be an Uber or a Lyft driver. Me personally, I'm not scared of any man or woman in this world. At the same time, I'm also aware and constantly aware of my environment, my surroundings, and the people around me. And I watch people. I observe people. I keep an eye on people. I listen. I pay close attention to their behavior, their words, and their actions. Because I know some people are crazy. And some people will try to do you something. They'll try to hurt you or whatever. So I always tell people, prevent problems before they occur. Don't wait until they occur. So if you're in a situation, you have an opportunity to stop and to prevent the situation before it escalates or before it occurs or before anything bad happens, then do what you have to do. Take preventative measures to prevent it from ever happening, prevent it from ever occurring. I don't know, in this driver's scenario, I don't know if he ever had an opportunity to prevent this from happening. I don't know if he had an opportunity even really to defend himself. All I'm saying is, it happened once. Be aware that it can happen, and take precaution. Be cautious. Don't be scared. If you're scared, somebody is more likely to try to victimize you or hurt you than if you're not scared of people. If you're the type of person that puts people at ease, that makes people feel comfortable, that lets people know that, like, this is probably not a person I should mess with, they're less likely to attack you than somebody who is scared. So don't be scared, but at the same time, don't be stupid. Be prepared. This is Elliot. This is Rideshare Daily. Y'all have an awesome day.